Hey everybody, I'm Todd. You know me at Todd Libby if you follow me on Twitter. My talk today, how to start your accessibility journey on how to become an accessibility advocate. We as developers and designers are used to being in our comfort zones a lot. This talk is going to take you out of that comfort zone and into the world of discomfort. There is a reason for that, and I'm going to go into those reasons right now. I am 100% an accessibility advocate. With the advent of new technologies and the rapid advancement of platforms, frameworks, libraries, and shiny things, keep in mind there's a need for accessibility advocates. There is a lot, there is a great community of accessibility advocates, but we need more. 20 to 25%, I've seen a lot of 20%, but also I've seen newer numbers that indicate 25% or that 1/4 of the world has a disability of some form, whether it's cognitive, whether it's visual, whether it's a motor skill, whether it's situational. And you heard examples from Chris's great talk earlier. Situational, let's go back a bit. Situational being a child in your arms. So as a member of the W3C, strides are underway to address more newer and hidden disabilities, hidden being migraines, for instance, migraine headaches, for instance, which is something I suffer from. In the advent of the first working public draft of the WCAG guidelines 3.0 release, there are these new guidelines we're going to touch upon as it's still being worked on. So some tips to start your accessibility journey that I share with people are the following: buy-in and support from executives or top management. Starting from the top will continuously be successful across the organization. Keeping executives engaged and meeting with them regularly will ensure success with your accessibility initiatives, but will also provide support for when new accessibility initiatives need to be implemented, or when there are disagreements among teams on the implementation or prioritization. You have the support of executives. Coordinating efforts across departments may be difficult and time consuming at first. So that support from the top will help alleviate the pressures and burnout that can happen when taking on the task of creating and implementing an accessibility strategy. If the pushback is more than you can handle, then you can play the company can save a lot of money from the time and the headaches that will be saved in the development and design phases to get a better product out to anyone. You won't be losing potential revenue. Second, have a team or individuals who are or is your accessibility advocate. Once you have buy-in from executives, having a person, but ideally having a team, focus on accessibility throughout each department can help answer questions and work with others to practice those guidelines. Become the expert in that department regarding accessibility. Help set up documentation and tooling, and serve as an intermediary between departments and their accessibility liaison. Assess the product and the expertise within the company. Gauging the point where the product or products are as far as how inclusive and accessible they are is a key priority. That will only help the team, the individual in their efforts to make the product better. What's the current state of accessibility as far as the product goes? What's the current state of the website or the mobile app? Getting the general idea of the level of knowledge that the teams and people in the company currently have is also important going forward. How versed are they in accessibility guidelines and practices? Do they need to know anything about the WCAG? How much training do you or will you need to have? Established guidelines for the company. Consistent product implementations greatly benefit the organization. It reduces the amount of work, which in turn can reduce the amount of stress that teams can be under. Design systems should be used not only to ensure branding and consistency, but accessibility also. Accessible components can help for obvious reasons and reduces the time it will take to start over from scratch and try to invent something that has already been done. Testing procedures should be implemented to help departments such as QA and developers to do their jobs well and efficiently. Getting fellow colleagues to buy in and care. In this landscape of frameworks and libraries, going fast and breaking things and overlooking and undervaluing accessibility, some people need to be educated, and those that do not have voices, the people on the other side of the glass, need you to be their voice. Pitching to those not already in the know that accessibility means less time, less headaches, and less stress can sway a developer, I have found, faster than anything else. Sharing the importance of the American Disabilities Act, or the ADA. Whether you have the ADA, such as we do in the United States, or the Act, the Accessible Canada Act, or EN 301-549, which is a mouthful, in the EU, share the importance of your country's accessibility standard. There's also in the United States, Section 508 for the US government standards as well. Sharing the importance of these guidelines wherever you are, if there are guidelines, can be crucial to getting the company and the departments on board. Pick examples from the outside world every day as use cases. Test and tape or videotape cases where a disabled user is trying to use an inaccessible website or application. A form, a piece of assistive technology they use every day, as they would use in everyday life. It is easy to find such cases. If you know someone in your family or circle of friends, you can use them. You can ask them, hey, I would like to test something out. Would you like to test it for me? Maybe you will need to go to a source that tests with disabled folks outside of the company. There are plenty of companies out there that do this, and they have tremendous reputations. Showing these cases to colleagues can turn some people around to embracing accessibility in the workplace and in the workflow. Evolution. Accessibility does not end after handoff. Websites and applications are an ever-evolving medium that we work with, even designs and testing. So we need to be cognizant of those changes and make it paramount that accessibility be practiced well after handoff to the client, or upon completion of the project, or in everyday workplace situations as well, which brings me to my next point. Employ and hire disabled people. These are the people with the lived experiences. They can benefit your company and team by having them aboard. If you don't run the company, then you need to look back at my first bullet point and get executives on board with bringing on one or even two or more folks with disabilities to not only help with accessibility, but testing as well. They benefit you as you are, as much as you are helping them. Understanding the guidelines. Yes, WCAG 2.x can be a daunting foray into more technical writing that will make even the most seasoned accessibility expert's head explode, even mine, and I'm no expert. Those who've been working in the W3C have heard the people that want to be able to read the WCAG guidelines and understand them. So with WCAG 3.0, it makes the conscious effort to make that possible with more clearer language. For now, I suggest people do read through and make an effort to understand something. And in the meantime, that they will need to benefit them going forward. Ask all the questions, whether it is on Twitter, whether it is in your Slack groups, Discord servers, email, carrier pigeons, or Morse code. Ask questions and ask them all. No question is a dumb one. Hell, I can usually be found somewhere, and you can ask me or someone you know that has the accessibility chops and is more than happy to help. And when I get questions, if I can't answer those questions, I will either find the answer or I will direct you to somebody that can answer that. The accessibility community is made up of a lot of people, a diverse group of folks that are more than happy to share their experiences and their knowledge with everyone. It is not a closed group of people hiding state secrets and wearing gilded yak helmets. We love to answer your questions. My 10 accessibility principles are the following. I'll go back to that in a minute. Accessibility is inclusive. Accessibility is out of the box with caveats. Accessibility is more than just a list of items to check off. Accessibility is empathetic. Accessibility is impactful. Accessibility is inspiring and uplifting. Accessibility is a right, not a privilege. Accessibility is an act of humanity. Accessibility is a responsibility, and accessibility is a basic human right. And with regards to the second principle I follow that I wrote up, accessibility is out of the box with semantic HTML and progressive enhancement. But there are a few issues with native HTML elements, the best example being the details element, which is not keyboard accessible and therefore not suggested to be used until there is a time when it can be keyboard accessible or an alternative can be provided. We as designers and developers who advocate do it for the people with no voice. We have a passion that we want to share with everyone from the top down. That is accessibility and making the web accessible and inclusive for everyone. To use a term I had to steal from someone else that I used earlier, we have to think about the people on the other side of the glass. We are designing and developing for the users in our professional lives. That means everyone is included, no exceptions. If you're doing this professionally at the workplace, at the office, at the company you are at now, this transcends and rolls over to your personal projects as well. You want everyone to be able to see your portfolio site, don't you? You want everyone to be able to access that site, don't you? A great example of this is someone I worked with at a place that did not practice accessibility. I was on a team that was being formed to do just that, bringing accessibility to that company and start making the web inclusive and accessible for those that needed or wanted to access the work we did. This person was not on board. Everyone in our team carried practices over to our personal project. Many of us went on to other companies and they were impressed and hired us. One person that did not practice accessibility was found by a company they interviewed, and when the lead developer who had a visual disability could not see what was on the portfolio site and therefore could not make a judgment call, passed upon this person and they found someone else. Where is that person now? Still working for that same company all of us moved on from. And they have since stopped practicing accessibility, according to a contact I have there. We here need to ensure that doesn't happen. Thus, the advocating and the shouting from the top of the mountain for the case to be using and practicing accessibility. Take what you will from this and ask any questions you may have, and please jump on board and let's make this web we work with accessible and inclusive for everyone. My last point that I really want to make is beware of the snake oil salesman. Accessibility is work. It is not a quick fix. It is not a miracle elixir. It is hard work. And if you saw my talk, The Brown Bag, I love to use this quote. Our industry as a whole thinks less and less about accessibility. Not that we ever had an A game on the subject, and talks less and less about progressive enhancement, preferring to chase the ephemeral goalposts of over-engineered solutions to non-problems. And that's from Jeffrey Zeldman, who I was honored to have on my podcast. And we briefly touched on that. And that quote couldn't be any further from the truth. So I'll end with this. If you don't have anyone close to you that has a disability, imagine the struggle if they did. And I'll let you read through this. If you would fight for them, then you will fight for the people on the other side of the glass. I hope you will. I want to thank you very much. Accessibility is a right, not a privilege. Thank you.